Hello, and welcome back to Leviathan News. It is our second interview today. We got a double header today, and we have Rok Kopp from Ether.Fi. He's the Chief Revenue Officer. He's here to come and talk about the evolution of solo staking and Ether.Fi's introduction into the world of liquid restaking. So welcome.
Thanks for having me, Sam. I appreciate it, and looking forward to chat today.
So I was listening to a stream that you guys were doing, or his Twitter Spaces this morning, talking about the introduction of staking through Polygon ZK EVM that's upcoming. But it was interesting to hear that you guys started out as a hedge fund that was into staking ETH, and then like ran into some issues of just like, well, how do we do this? Where do we do it? Like, what are the options here? And didn't really find anything reasonable that met the expectations of your fund, and then went out and developed Ether.Fi as a product.
Yeah, it's one of those examples, I guess, of creating a product to solution kind of what you're doing or what you're doing. And so Mike and I both come from Mike, who's the co-founder, my co-founder. We both come from the Web2 world, and so we built product and built software before. Mike's last company he found called Top Hat, we kind of ran things up there and kind of built it up. So we rejoined forces in crypto, and we're focusing on DeFi specifically because we just thought it was going to have such a big impact on the world, or has the potential to have such a big impact. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but one of the things that our investors kind of were requesting is saying, hey, we're very bullish on, like, kind of want this like index fund, so to speak, type of a thing. And so we think Ethereum, like, as far as DeFi goes, like Ethereum's kind of king, and just holding there is a pretty safe investment. So just like hold and stake, and it was we got a lot of demand from that. So we initially were going to go with Lido, and then because they were there, and then we started to do our due diligence, and we're like, holy cow, like this thing has so much risk like associated with it. And I think one of the unique things in crypto is that like narratives are so important, and once you get a good narrative going, or like social proof going, people just kind of start to pile on, right? Like we saw it with FTX. I think that's probably the biggest example. Another one's, just 6 months earlier was Luna. So like these things kind of build up, and you get to, protocols that maybe are not built the correct way, and then they can just unravel extremely quickly. So we still think there's a couple ticking time bombs out there with Lido. I really hope they don't trigger, because I don't think it's good for the ecosystem in general. But yeah, that's exactly kind of why we.
Could you go more into that? I mean, I don't mean to stop you here, but like what exactly, when you were doing your due diligence, did you guys come across? What were some of the issues that really prevented you from deploying capital in Lido? And if not Lido, then why not one of the other major incumbents in the LSD ecosystem, either Rocket Pool or FraxETH?
Yeah, great question. So I'll start with Lido, and then I'll go to why we didn't do the other two. But so with Lido, there's 32 node operators that run all the stake on Lido, and they hold all the withdrawal keys. So when you think about that, if one set of those keys are compromised or something happens to one of them, because of the pooling system, all of a sudden, like when people start to exit, there's going to be a liquidity crunch, and then you'll get this like run on the bank scenario that basically is going to happen. So it's a lot of.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? Like I'm not understanding that when you describe that.
Yeah. Okay. So node basically there's two sets of keys that are required. The transition from proof of work to proof of stake for the Ethereum blockchain has made staking more interesting than staking, or more difficult and complicated than staking on any other proof of stake blockchain. And so when Lido was built, there was no withdrawal mechanism, right? Like Ethereum said, hey, we're going to switch to proof of stake, but they didn't really know like what it was going to look like. They took their best guess. And Lido's done amazing things for the space, right? Like they've made a liquid staking a reality, and they've built this huge thing. So like props to Lido for what they did. I think you could ask anyone on the Lido team, they would not build it the way that they did now if they knew how withdrawals were going to work, right? So like but when they built it, and it's at the point where it's too big to actually go back and rebuild the thing at this point. So, but when they built it, the withdrawal keys are held by the node operators. And so the node operators are the people who run these 32 ETH stakes. There are 32 of them. Those are 32 node operators who run these in nodes, and they've put a cap on them of, I don't know, 8,000-10,000 validators. The cap goes up, a bit, but they can only run a certain amount of validators. The thing though is that those node operators hold all the keys. And so when you think about the number of people that are in those companies, in the amount of like key interaction, I guess, that they have all the power, right? So it's like you as the staker just going into this protocol, and you kind of give up your keys, you give up custody, you get the token of Steth, and then there's trust that you can take that Steth and redeem it 1-to-1, right? Mm-hmm. So that happens, and everything is good until the system goes bad. How the system goes bad with the pooling system is just compromisation of any little part through the withdrawals. So for instance, like just one example I'll use is one of the withdrawal keys is compromised by an employee at one of these companies who gets them and then holds them hostage, right? Like holds the protocol hostage. Say, hey, I got 10 keys that I'm holding, 1,000 keys, whatever it is, right? Like that I'm holding here. And I'm not going to give them until you give me some ransom, or I'm not going to let people withdraw. This starts to go, contagion spreads, and now you get a like clogged withdrawal queue. People can't get out. And then, I think fear just sets in and the bake run kind of happens. So that's like one example of something that could happen.
Well, I mean, even if the Steth token trades at a discount, I mean, you'll still get your ETH back at some point. It's just you have to wait for the withdrawal queue. I mean, we saw this earlier before the merge happened, when the price of Steth went to like 95.
Yeah. I think it even got down to 90. It's crazy. It's a great trade.
Yeah, it went down quite a bit, but it didn't mean that it was insolvent, right? It just meant that there was liquidity issues, and that the at the time there was no way to withdraw, but now there is time to withdraw. I believe, we haven't really seen a rush to the exit for withdrawals yet. I know that Lido does have a capital buffer that they use to allow for instant withdrawals, but once that's all sucked up, then you have to essentially wait in queue. Right now, there is no queue. Everything's been zeroed out, both for deposits and withdrawals.
Yep.
But that withdrawal stress test hasn't happened yet. I understand some of the criticisms around Lido. I mean, but it does seem to like register well for institutional clients. I mean, they've been able to acquire close to 33% of the total LSD market, and show no signs of stopping as well too. So maybe we can hop on to some of the other alternatives, specifically Rok Kopp, which does offer a more decentralized way that you can set up your validators, and so that if you are a node operator, you can use their pools to take ETH and run the nodes. So what were some of the issues with Rok Kopp?
Yeah, let me just comment really quick on the insolvency too, because insolvency is not the concern. I don't think it's just liquidity to have your ETH. Like, I don't worry about like an FTX thing here. Like, I think you're going to get your ETH back. But if you can't get it for 2 years or whatever, if there's some like regulatory exposure, one of these node operators gets shut down by a government, that's more like what we're saying to try and like, stay away from. The whole bank run thing is another scenario that is, but so yeah. The second point, I guess, just to talk about Rok Kopp, we love what Rok Kopp is doing. I think that it's amazing. The biggest concern that we had was like the ability to like scale it, like, and so like, could they scale quick enough, like with their bonding mechanisms? It just takes more time to get your validator like spun up. So I love what they do. I think they do things really, really well, and the community they've created is amazing. So I have nothing but great things to say about Rok Kopp. The honest answer is like, we're more product people than hedge fund people. Like, so like we want to build like value instead of go fight for, a couple extra bips, try and make, pretty sharp elbows to go try and like make a couple extra bips. And so like, I think there's a lot of positive stuff that can happen.
Yeah. We just spoke with a consultant who helps high net worth investors allocated funds into like Bitcoin and other digital assets. And I thought it was really interesting what he said, that there are different levels of how you, or like there's different ways that you can allocate Bitcoin, right? So you can go out and you can buy a regulated securities product in, say, like GBTC or the Bitcoin ETF. You can use a third-party custodian if you want to deposit your Bitcoin with, or you can self-custody at home. And so I think the whole, like when I look at the whole LSD debate, it's I view it in that lens, right? There's going to be trade-offs at every single level, because staking is not enshrined at the consensus layer for Ethereum, right? It's not like Cosmos, where it just is built from the ground up to allow for this staking. And so there's always going to be trade-offs when it comes to these LSD designs. I do think that those questions about like what those trade-offs are is like what you want, right? You're either prioritizing, I don't even know if it's trilemma, but you're either prioritizing for liquidity or you're prioritizing for decentralization. And you can't really like choose one or the other, right? Because something that's maximally decentralized is probably going to have worse liquidity always than something which is, you know, highly centralized. And it's just the way the market works, right? So there's always going to be trade-offs.
There's always trade-offs, right? Like, I mean, I think that that's the reality too. And like, you know, I think that people got to make their calls like where they are. I think that one of the things for me personally, like maintaining my own custody is important. Like a custodian doesn't make sense for me, right? Like I would much rather self-custody, but there's tons of my friends who are, you know, like that's too much work. That's too much pressure to self-custody. Like what if something goes wrong? Like I don't want that. And so I think you're totally right on that. The other thing I think to comment on is like on staking specifically, like in the ecosystem that's there, you know, Lido has 32%. The self-limiting stuff, like I think is kind of crazy. Like it's capitalism. And so I think the market needs to provide a better product. Like, you know, and if you're not going to provide an alternative that's better, then like, you know, why do it? And there's just a lot of copycat things that is just, you know, going through and doing the same thing that Lido does, but like they've passed the Howey test. Like they've been there a long time. Like they're going to continue to win unless you give the market a reason to leave them. And so it's actually why we think liquid restaking is going to be super, super important, and why we're the first liquid staking token that you can natively restake your ETH while maintaining composability in DeFi.
So just before we get into liquid restaking, when we talk about risks, I mean, we can recommend here at Leviathan News the Prisma risk team, which has done independent studies of all of these LSDs. We'll include the link here. It's hackmd.io at Prisma risk. And they have extremely detailed write-ups for all the major LSDs. So if you have any questions about Lido's setup, questions about any of its risks, market risk, technological risk, counterparty risk, it's all here. And these are probably the most in-depth and well-researched risk reports that you can find on LSDs in the entire crypto space. So please check that out in the link below if you have any questions about that, specifically to get into what Rok was talking about when these questions of like counterparty or legal risk come into play. So highly recommend those. So here we have, you can see all this stuff on the side, right? So these Prisma risks, they have market risk, technological risk, and inside of those, you can learn all about like the licenses, legal structures, where everything is on a almost like what you would find with like an SEC disclosure. It's really good. And they also talk about market performance as well too, about like what the volatility is and how they perform. And it's the most in-depth report that you're going to find, and we recommend it here at Leviathan, and it's in the show notes below. So happy to share that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, so let's get into the liquid restaking. So this is a new phenomenon that's come from Eigenlayer specifically, and then there are a couple of follow-on projects as well too. At a general level, restaking essentially means that you are essentially using your staking power to add new slashing conditions to it, so that you can programmatically guarantee the security of other applications that are not connected to just other applications, other middleware applications. And this could be oracles, this could be it could be an alarm clock, right? Honestly, it could be anything. But
Yep.
the liquid restaking provides a way for the individual node operators and the validators to earn an extra yield on top by adding these new slashing conditions in. So how did you guys decide to make waves and pursue this as a strategy for Ether.Fi?
Yeah, when the announcement of Eigenlayer came out and we were kind of like talking more and more about it, like we just saw it as such like a clear path of where the market was going. And so like restaking is very much in its infancy, right? Like there's actually no restaking going on right now. Like if you're restaking with Eigenlayer right now, you're just sitting in an eigenpod earning points. And so, but we think like restaking has potential to be the biggest thing on Ethereum since Ethereum, right? Like I think there's just massive potential. There's still a ton of risk and a ton of work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for us, it's pretty low risk right now. We'll put the ETH in these eigenpods and start to collect points for those, and then we'll distribute any rewards that get sent out to our users. The biggest thing for us is that our users can maintain their composability in DeFi, where like our ETH and ST ETH, like they're going into these eigenpods that have caps on them, but then they lose their composability within DeFi. So you're just like locking up your ETH for however long, where that doesn't happen with us. So that's our biggest differentiation. I think BlockSwap is doing a lot of cool stuff with restaking too. So like we're going to work closely with them. We're actually going to work on building some stuff out on restaking. But restaking is going to be like fascinating. I think over the next like where stuff is restaked, how it's allocated. Like in my head, I almost have like this vision of like if you have a 401k, if you're in the US and you have a 401k or whatever, you can like select your plan of like high risk, low risk, whatever it is. And I kind of think something similar is going to happen. With restaking of like, hey, like I can take tons of risk and you're going to get like much more rewards. But I think slashing is going to come into play and people are going to get, burned a couple times. Like there'll certainly be bumps along the way. But it's super exciting stuff to happen. I think will play a huge role in the ecosystem.
So is the protocol as a whole determining what to allocate the ETH security budget towards, or can people who are running individual solo validators choose? Like, how is that all wrapped in, right? Because like, there's no way that you can issue like a single token when like a single liquid restaking token, if you have validators which have a million different slashing conditions across every single validator that they have, right? Like there's no way to manage that risk, I don't think, unless you're essentially moving the protocol as an entire whole, saying like we're all going to be supporting these for I don't know, what do they call the Eigenlayer apps that sit on top?
The eigenpods.
Eigenpods, yeah. So like, how do we choose which eigenpods? Is it on an individual basis, or is this like a protocol voting function?
Yeah, so over time it'll go to governance. Like we will, it'll be like a vote through governance. But for now it's like we're just kind of pointing them there. What's unique about us is each individual 32 ETH validator has its own withdrawal address, where most liquid staking protocols have a pool of ETH and there's one withdrawal address that is pointed there. So like we are able to kind of batch these things and do it. As a solo staker, if you're doing solo staking, you can set your withdrawal credentials, kind of where you'd like on it. You can also have us do it as well. But if you're a solo staker running your own 32 ETH validator, you can do it yourself.
Okay, so the individual eigenpods will be chosen at like the protocol governance level, right? Like
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And so that will equalize the risk across all the validators that are taking part. And so if there is any slashing that takes place, everybody gets slashed at the same time. Not
that's right. And like we'll have insurance in there for slashing and stuff too. So like, we're going to make sure that we do mitigation on these things. And then, but yeah, certainly there's some things that can pop up. There's so many unknowns, right? Like, I think over the next several months, seeing what Eigenlayer rolls out will be super, super interesting.
So can you talk about the relationship? Like, have you been working with them? Like what goes into building out a liquid restaking protocol for Eigenlayer?
Yeah. You know, we are close with the Eigenlayer team. They very much like don't want to play favorites in the space, right? So like they're trying to stay like agnostic, which is I think smart and good. We met Sriram at ETH Denver earlier this year when we were launching our protocol, and so we kind of talked to him then about like what we were doing. I mean, that you know, we personally think that native staked ETH is super important, but you know, I think Sriram holds some of those same thoughts, but they don't want to, you know, specifically like favor any protocol. So we, you know, Bree and Calvin and the team over there, they're awesome. We've, you know, we've done a little bit of co-marketing with them, and we're working closely like with their smart contract team to integrate there. So yeah, that's kind of what it is, like super close relationship, but you know, they want to make sure that they can kind of stay agnostic and not play favorites as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in the like DeFi applications that are going to get built out for these liquidity stake tokens, because like in theory you can there's new systems that you can build to monitor the risk conditions at the consensus layer. On Flywheel, we spoke with Ion Protocol, I think last month.
Okay.
And they're building this like zkML risk engine that
Yeah.
looks at everybody's risk conditions, and then they build like lending rate, and then they like adjust their rates for any liquid restake token. Like for if Ether.Fi has one, or if any other protocol has one, they can look at all the slashing conditions in those specific tokens individually, and then offer borrowing and have it be liquid as well too, because they're not monitoring the price at the execution or at the application layer, execution layer. It's all done at the consensus layer. So
yeah, the Ion team's super smart and super sharp. Chunta is he's a pretty sharp guy. So
yeah.
So
like, what does it mean for like solo stakers then, as you guys move into this like new strategy, right? I know that when you guys came out, you're pushing hard towards having a like solo staker model where anybody could come along and plug in their validator and have I think somewhat similar mechanics to RPL, but with no token attached on top, which is always great because, you know, the RPL token is highly volatile, and it's a big portion of the bond that has to be added. So there's increased efficiency in a tokenless model.
Yeah, solo stakers is always going to be like super important for us. Like we just think it really helps like with decentralization, and so finding good on ramps for that is the most important thing. So there's new technology that's out that has kind of made this a reality, but there's some like growing pains as far as scale goes on that too. So you know, we have these solo stakers that are running machines now. It's just making sure that we can continue to integrate and scale. So we're working closely with like, you know, several of the DBT providers and the hardware providers to make it happen. But solo staking is going to be at our core for a long time. We just think it's super important, and something that Rok Kopp has done a really good job of as well. Just like kind of building a great community of you know, people out there.
So wait, as chief revenue officer, how does Ether.Fi generate revenue for?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So liquid staking protocols, they charge 10%. So they take 10% of the rewards. 5% goes to the node operator, and then 5% goes to the protocol. So that's how we make money. I think that there's going to be like other, so we've done other things where people have to like pay mint fees for like this Ether.Fan product that we've done, and we actually share back all the revenues, but you know, we're consistently figuring out like different ways that we can do it. I think monetizing, like very few crypto companies think about monetization. You know, it's more like this, like, you know, pump the top line thing, get users and stuff. But like, in order for this to exist in the long term, like you got to find ways to make money. And so, you know, we're trying to think of that like from the start. So it's why we like staking. Like there's a very clear revenue model. Now to make a lot of money staking, you need just incredible amounts of stake. Like 5% of 5% is not going to get us anywhere.
Right.
But at least it gives you like a little baseline to get the flywheel going.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we see this over at Frax as well too, and just that, you know, you really have to get to scale. It needs to be in like the millions of, you need to get to a million
Totally.
ETH, right?
Yep.
Because even at a million ETH, I mean, you're looking at like, let's say we go to 10,000 at a million ETH, we're talking about $10 billion there of capital. There's probably 3%, 4% at a mature state for the yield that's being paid out then. So what is that, like 300 million? And you're getting, I don't know, what, like 5% of that. So that's like 60, is it 60 million? I think it's about 60 million, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
But at scale with ETH at a high number, it's probably like $6 million a year. And that's being a large incumbent as well too.
Totally.
Yeah. But I do think it's healthy. I mean, like one of the things that I hope we do get more of is just more client diversity. I think that, you know, Lido had a really good head start. And, you know, we didn't see a ton of other projects enter the space until later into the like LSD development. Like as we were getting closer, even as we were getting closer to the merge, it was mostly even like post-merge, right? That we really saw a whole host, right? So pre-merge, we had like Lido, Rocket Pool, and Frax. And then post-merge, we've seen a ton more of people who are trying to integrate with like Flashbots and work in like MEV boost stuff. The liquid restaking is becoming a growing narrative as well too. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other variations that we're going to see over the next few years.
Totally. I think, yeah, education on space, like in providing different options for people is going to be super important, right? Like, but I think you need to be differentiated. If you're just like, you know, providing like liquid staking, I mean, the depth that Lido has, the liquidity that Lido has, like, it's very tough to catch up to. So I think that, you know, got to educate people on different things. And I think different options is super good. It's super healthy to have that, right? I don't think it's going to be a winner take all market. But it'll evolve, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
it's with the you guys are like built into the AVADOS, right?
So Avado and DAppNode are just two of the hardware like nodes that run with us. Yeah, so those are two of the people that we partner with.
I actually have an Avado machine. I need to go plug it in at some point. I've moved around a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You should run some stake for us.
Should. Yeah.
There you go. And you get the 5% of rewards.
So is it just that I run the node and then I can borrow the ETH from the Ether.Fi pool, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So because of our mechanism of the where the staker holds the withdrawal keys, we're allowed, like, we're able to there's like some technical things that happen, but basically like distribute these nodes to be run on a variety of different like of these solo staking machines, because we have access to like withdraw the ETH, and so like you just mitigate your risk. Like if someone's a bad actor, like we can just pull the validator, you know, at any point on that.
Yeah. So the Avado machines are around $1,000 for the cheapest one. They go up a little bit as the if you want to run more validators. So like the cheapest one will do like one ETH validator, but if you have more than 32 ETH, you probably should be picking up like an i7 or an R9. Also, DAppNode makes a nice product as well too. And yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's in the Avado software. So when you like turn it on and plug it in, and it's really easy to do so, you just plug it in and then you just have the ETH. You can connect to you guys. And like, what's the minimum stake to be able to borrow the ETH?
Participate. Yeah, you actually you don't have to. You just apply to our solo staker program, and then we will like just contact you and say, hey, like you've been selected. You actually don't have to put anything up. You just run the node.
Oh,
so
great.
Yeah, there's nothing you have to put up.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really nice, actually. How does so like what are the risks for that though? Because I know that with
for you is the node operator, or for like the stakers through Ether.Fi, like in their ETH?
Yeah, the people who are staking, right?
Yeah, so the biggest issue is like slashing, right? Like if someone goes down. But so DBT allows us to, distributed validator technology allows a set of node operators to be in there, and only a certain amount of them have to validate.
Yeah.
And so it just allows, it's one of the new technologies that has just kind of made this a reality. So yeah.
No, I was talking about the risks of like the 32 ETH. I guess it's you have to install specific software for the validator that where the Ether.Fi protocol controls the withdrawal keys, right? So if you're going to eject that ETH, it goes back to the Ether.Fi wallet, right?
Yeah, but it's not necessarily your ETH, right? Like that's that's running on there. It's not your ETH that is running on that machine. Like, now if you can use the machine to spin up your own ETH, but if you're coming through the Ether, like if you're a solo staker for the Ether.Fi protocol, the ETH is sent to you and put on like the it's encrypted, sharded, and sent over to you. So there's no real risk. But the risk is really on the protocol side that you guys, the node operators like act poorly and or whatever, like we get slashed and whatever. But that's if there's poor actors, we have like alerting systems, and then we can just withdraw the ETH before. So I do think solo staking is going to be massive. Like Lido is actually running a solo staking program now. So there's been a couple people that like followed us, which is it's flattering. I guess that it's kind of a good idea in doing it. So.
Is there any like liquid part? Like, is there an actual like liquid token that gets issued out for the Ether.Fi, or is it just solo staking right now?
Yeah, no. So the liquid staking token's coming out in 3 weeks. So middle of November. ETH. So we'll be out there and out in the wild. So it should be good.
Are you guys going to be taking part in Curve Wars at all? Are you going to be acquiring any like CVX, CRV?
We've talked about it. It could be something we do kind of down the line here. So it's liquidity strategies are so interesting, I think, and kind of how you go to market with this stuff. So just to start, like we've partnered with some really good people. We're gonna do some liquidity pools, Balancer, Aura, Uniswap. We'll just build up some stuff through there and some great partners, and then we'll just keep kind of running from there.
Well, I'm sure we'd all like to see you go to Curve. If possible.
Yeah.
We're all Curve maxis here, so
I love it. That's great.
Very cool. Garrett, DeFi advisor. I know I was asking all the questions, but I'll let you guys hop in if you guys have anything.
I'm good. Thanks for joining.
Minutes too. Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry.
We can wrap it. No problem. Well, let's wrap up. Rok, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate the introduction to Ether.Fi and the upcoming news about the liquid restaking. Where can people find you and more information about Ether.Fi?
Yeah, so Ether.Fi is our website. We have a whitelist that is open right now, so go there to sign up. If you want to get access to ETH, which is the liquid staking token that's coming out. All of our socials are on there as well. I'm at Kopp Knows on Twitter. So you'll see me if you kind of come in any of our Discords or Telegrams or whatnot. And I really appreciate Sam and the team for having me on. And it was great chatting with you guys, and would love to continue to stay in touch here.
Awesome. Great. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow for Wagme from Unsheath, who's coming
Unsheath. There we go. We know Wagme. There we go.
So they'll be here tomorrow, 10 a.m. We'll see you then.